part of this meeting. I believe that he hasn't got it, the invitation, or there's still
Yeah,
someone that needs
just
to let
email.
in.
Yeah, email me what anyone needs.
Can you hear us?
People, can you hear us out there?
We can hear you now.
Okay, good.
All right, are we almost ready before we lose sound again?
Yeah, we-
Is that Lou with you?
I'm sorry?
Is Lou with you? Who's
Yes.
that?
I'm right here.
Yeah,
Okay,
Call the meeting to order. This is the September 20th meeting of the WPCA. We have a quorum present of board members, so we're in good shape there. Darren Ostafine can't be with us today. He's doing something for the city of Darien. Can't get out of it. Also, Ralph Cobb will not be with us. He had a family problem, so Ralph is not with us today. So you get me, I'm Luke Clark, the vice chairman, and you get me for the meeting as a last resort. Anyway, we have a public hearing scheduled for today. I don't know if there's any public present for this hearing. I don't see any on Zoom, do you? I'm here with Darlene. Darlene is my consultant on Zoom. And so,
Lou, because this is being recorded, you may want to announce who the other commissioners are who are at this meeting.
announce what, John? I didn't quite hear you.
Who's attending from the
he
committee?
wants you to announce the board members that are in attendance.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Can you pull them up? Board members are, of course, John Bovee, John Igneri, Ed Camacho,
Yeah, here.
DeSantis. Chris is not really a vote, John, and myself, Luke Clark, Tom Keegan. And then a quorum for us is 5 people,
Yes,
and so that's
okay, so we're moving on to the public hearing. Lou,
Hey, Julian, we can't hear you again. We lost volume again.
okay. Well, Lou, can you hear us? No. I'll step in. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to comment on the proposed sanitary sewage extension at 238 West Rocks Road or B, the Bowden Street, 174 to 176?
We do not have anyone live from the public that would like to speak. I don't know if anyone wrote in or sent any emails in.
I think not. Okay, so I'll end the public hearing and go to our WPCA regular meeting. Call it to order. We have the same people attending as did the public hearing. And the first item is to approve the proposed sanitary sewer extension at 238 West Rocks Road to provide sanitary sewer service for the St. George Greek Orthodox Church and potential 12 parcels adjacent to the proposed extension.
That's our first item of business and is there any discussion on the proposed approval? There's a sketch in your that you received of the and it shows that the green dots on the sketch shows the 12 houses which will be affected by this and also by the church. Basically, quite frankly, it's a good move. I'm surprised the church doesn't have already been connected. Is there any discussion on this at this time? If that's the case, we'll move for approval of the item. All in favor of this item, please acknowledge by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry, who moved this?
Yeah, it wasn't moved, actually. Good point.
That's what I, good point. I'll move it.
Okay,
John Igneri moves it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor, raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Mary, yes. Clark, yes.
I think Tom said yes.
I think it's unanimous.
Ed Montrose, yes.
Sorry, guys, I have to abstain.
Mark Sanders. Yes.
no, he's abstaining.
I have to abstain. I'm
Yeah,
a member
got
of the
it.
church.
Okay,
Okay.
So
That includes item 3. Item 4 on our agenda is a continuation of and 4 and 5 are really lumped together. And it's a result of the new bylaws for executing a sewer extension, in the sense that we've now voted on the extension here, and it now goes to the planning commission. And it now goes to the public works for their approval. This is a new procedure, and this is the first time we've seen it in our notes. It's just a pro forma obligation on our part. And so I will just accept a voice vote for item 4 and for item 5. Is there any
Do we have
discussion?
someone move those as well?
Yes, someone should make this motion, please.
I'll move the two items.
Yeah. Second,
wait a minute a second.
okay. All in favor of this, items 4 and item 5 of your agenda, raise your hands again.
aye.
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 Serenides abstains, I think.
Right.
No, abstains? Agree. Yes, I still have to abstain. Right, of
Okay.
course. Makes sense.
Mhm. Okay, the next item is item 6, approval of the Boughton Street extension. Here's a question of just, they're extending this, the sewers on Boughton Street,
Yeah, I gotta read the whole thing.
Hmm?
You gotta read that.
which is presently a dead end. And in sufficient way that there's at least 5 houses on the new extension that will be available for hooking up to the public sewers. Is there any discussion on this item? No discussion?
I do have one question actually as a chair of the BET. When these extensions are done, sewer extensions are done, is there an assessment, some sort of a tax assessment or anything like that that is levied on the affected properties in some way, or is this completely absorbed by the authority and or the city?
I'll have to pass on that. I'm not too sure.
I can answer that question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, that's your answer. Go ahead.
So there is no tax or any assessment levied. So the proposed sanitary sewer extensions, both of them are being funded by a private developer, by a private entity. So it's not a city entity. So at that point, the construction cost is levied and carried by the entity completing the work and making the request tonight. The only time that a sanitary sewer extension would be levied on a parcel in the city of Norwalk is if the city decided to go through the freeholders process, where if you have 1,000, let's say 1,000 feet of new sanitary sewer that's going to serve 10 parcels, then what you do is you calculate the cost of the tax levy on each parcel by how many linear feet of sanitary sewer go across their frontage for the front part of the property. So obviously everybody's frontages are different. So the assessment would vary, and it would be based on if the tax was levied over 20 or 30 years. So we're not going through the freeholder process because this is not a city project. Both sanitary sewer extensions are proposed through a private entity, and at this point just requires approval from staff and the various boards and commissions.
I see. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
satisfied?
Yep.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
No, we need somebody to who moved it. Anybody move this?
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's true.
motion,
No
I
one
guess.
moved it as well. So George moved it?
Yes. So
George? Okay.
Okay, all in favor again?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Motion carried. Doing a list of the people?
No.
Okay. The next two items are the continuation, where this item 7 and item 8, where they had, our vote has to be referred to the planning commission and referred to the public works committee. This is again, just a pro forma, the same as we did for the West Rocks. So I entertain a motion to accept these two items in mass. Is there any discussion?
Is there item 7 and 8? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Sure.
They're just a follow-up on
Yeah.
the procedures that we voted upon.
So
We have not
I'll move the
decided,
item.
these people have to vote too on this
So-
extension.
I'll move the two items and if that's required.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So moved. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, item 9 is approval of the minutes of the WPCA special meeting held on July 7th. And that is in your package that you received. And it's page 1 of 5 in the items, and it contains the procedures used that we've just discussed here in the sense of the referrals to the other organizations. And I don't think, is there any discussion on this? Anthony, would you have any discussion?
No, this is just to approve the meeting minutes.
Excuse me?
This is the approval meeting minutes.
Okay,
So, yeah, we just need a motion. Does anybody?
So
for,
moved.
I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
okay.
Do you have any corrections or additions?
No,
Anybody?
None.
okay.
All in favor?
Mhm.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 10 is executive session. And I would somewhat inclined to, do we want to get into executive session or postpone it until after reports?
Oh, no, I think we need to go
Huh?
in. I think we have to go in now because we have people, yeah, we want to go in now,
Okay,
for sure, yeah.
so now we're going to go into the executive session. And which means we have to leave this website.
Well, we need a motion to go into executive session.
I'm so moved.
Mr. Chairman, this is John, who'll be presenting my report later. Do you think, Delene, could you send me an email when you guys are ready? 'Cause
Sure,
I won't be in the executive session.
yes.
No, you're not.
Yeah, sure, I will.
Okay, I'll stand by. Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, okay.
All right. So we're leaving this, right?
So
Delene,
everybody's got the link, right?
the police commission just ended their executive session.
Thank you.
They're done. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I'm going to keep this meeting open.
Okay, good.
Everyone can go to executive session.
Okay.
So we're all set.
Hold on. Okay, so we're coming back in at 6:45 and there was no actions taken.
No, no actions taken on the executive committee. Items were deferred until the next meeting.
So now we're on 11A. Go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you. So as we just talked about at the July meeting, we had two significant storm events in July, one that ended on July 3rd, the other that ended on July 10th. The event on the 3rd lasted about 2 hours, and the event on the 9th was much longer and it lasted almost 22 hours. And as we talked about in July, the event on July 9th was a result of a 6.49 inches of rain that we received over about a 24 to 36 hour period. And that was up to that point, the largest rainfall we had experienced. However, as I'll tell you in a bit, we had an even larger rainfall in September, which was quite amazing. Plant did well in July, though. The facilities worked well. We were able to treat and manage all the flow that came to the plant. And we were in compliance with all of the permit parameters and all the sampling and testing requirements for the month of July. August was a much quieter month. We were able to get caught up on some of our jetting and TV inspection, but we also spent a significant amount of time cleaning the headworks and a lot of the influent pumping systems. The storm event washed a significant amount of grit and sand out of the collection system, and that found its way into the headworks. So we had to systematically clean all 3 of the bar screens and 2 wet wells and the grit systems. But we were able to get that all done, and the system is at 100% availability. So that's kind of a brief overview of July and August. We'll update you on the September 3rd rain event that we had. We were impressed with 6.49 inches, and we went on to better ourselves, and we received 7.51 inches of rain on the 3rd, and that was over a much shorter period of time. I think Ralph, when he did the calculations, I believe the official calculation was that it was a 200-year storm event, which is pretty amazing. But nonetheless, our team did an excellent job. We handled the flows. All of the pump stations worked at 100%, as well as all of the influent pumps and all the systems at the plant. So we were able to manage that flow in September. And again, there were no permit exceedances, and the plant recovered very well, and it's back operating great. So that's a summary. If anyone has any questions or any areas they'd like me to give you some more detail on, I'd be happy to get into it. Okay. Well, thanks, everyone. That's all we have. Okay.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, 12A reports.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the chairman was moving on to the next item, so I'll start. For item 12A for reports, the main highlight for the munis expenditures and revenues is that our revenues are beginning to level off and exhibit more of pre-COVID trends, if you will. Much like the sanitation and the garbage and the recycling, things are turning back to a more of a pre-COVID normal. So while we're sitting here looking at our operating budget, the revenue at this point and everything collected thus far is a little bit less, especially for the commercial users who, again, are more of our volume base, and a lot of commercial users and restaurants, hotels, et cetera, have used a lot less water over the course of COVID, now returning a little bit more to semi-normal or normal operations. But for the most part, the revenue is trending back to offset the expenses to pre-COVID conditions. So there's no red flags at this point. Just maybe it's a several percent difference. I have to get the exact percent for the board, but the revenues are starting to equate to where they were prior to COVID. And for the financial model update, which is item 12B, myself, Chris Torrey, and Ralph Cole, PCA, DPW, are working with Woodard and Curran Engineering, PAPC, to develop a financial forecasting model. And in sum, it's basically an Excel spreadsheet that takes many variables into account as far as how much capital bonding that we have out now that we're paying debt service on, our operating expenses, which this board reviews annually when we set our budget in February, March, It takes the operating expenses, it takes the debt services, it takes the projects that we're currently paying debt on. It takes planned projects, our current sewer usage rate for residential, our current volumetric rate for commercial. And basically what it does is it shows us where we need to be from an operating expense perspective as far as setting rates, where we need to be to at least break even or have a recommended surplus in our piggy bank, if you will, so that if anything happens, we need contingency funding, that'll be available for the WPCA. So this is, it's a very, very intricate spreadsheet, but we are still flushing out, I guess, the beta version of it and providing the consultant with additional detail. When I say we, it's finance, comptroller, CFO, my staff, and we plan to present later this year to the WPCA board with Woodland and Curran leading the presentation and just walk all the tabs of the spreadsheet, not getting super granular, but just showing what the spreadsheet will do. And it'll also help direct and navigate the board when you are setting rates, as far as if what a 0% increase would do, what a 1% increase would do to the fees, 2%, and that'll all be balanced against our projected needs for capital funding in the future. So from the Connecticut Deep consent order, if there's additional work that we have to do for I&I, additional sanitary sewer lining, manhole rehabilitation, flow monitoring, smoke testing, et cetera, we will obviously have a good sense of that once the consent order is finalized. And any additional capital funding that we need to request outside of our normal trend from prior years, with the exception of big projects, would be included into this model. And then you can see how the capital budget, how the capital projects and that debt service would impact our operating budget. And basically it'll be plug and play, where the consultant would not own the spreadsheet, we would, but we would have a task in our task order with them to maintain and update the spreadsheet every 6 months or at least annually, right? So when we do our budget, we would sit with them, we give them the new parameters, and then we would know before we present to the board or start budget discussions in February, March, we would know later in the year, probably December, January, where those rates should be and what we're looking to target. And if you don't increase or you do increase to 2%, what that would look like for the operating budget and what it would look like for debt service, which is obviously part of the operating budget. So I think instead of, it'll keep any rate increase from being arbitrary or just going on a feeling or just going on past expenditures. We'll actually be able to project into the future and see what the effect would be of keeping rates the same or increasing them. So I think that's important. And that's really what we call it a dynamic model. It's a forecast out 10 years, but based on our discussions with finance and people much more intimate with this and more of an expertise area, it's good for 3 to 5 years, really, because rates change with the banks, rates change with the interest for the loans. Right now it's about 1.5%. It could fluctuate. So really, even though you'll see the model is a forecast for 10 years of expenditures and revenues, what it really is a tool for 3 to 5 years. And that lines up with our 5-year capital improvement program. So we're not going to really use the tool for anything more than 5 years, because after that, the information doesn't become as accurate and is subject to a lot of the market fluctuations and banking fluctuations. So it's a great model. We have an old one that was done by a company called Red Oak, which is a subsidiary of the company formerly known as Malcolm Perney. They're now known as Arcadis. So we have an old model. Myself, Chris, and Ralph said, many months ago, this is it's old. It needs to be updated. It needs to be improved. So we know where we're heading, right? So we have a direction. How you know where you're going if you don't know where you need to go. So this model will be very easy to understand. We'll give the board all the intricacies with the presentation, but then we'll have an executive summary of what the model could actually do. So it's really neat. A lot of sewer authorities and wastewater treatment plants and sewer entities use this. And it just is another planning tool to help allow the board and staff to make better fiscal decisions.
Let me ask you a quick question as a procedural matter. When you set new rates, is there a public comment period or is there a public hearing component to that process, or is it just, or is it handled by us without regard to, anything else?
The rates are handled by the WPCA board, and I believe staff has input based on prior expenditures, but I can't recall if there's a public hearing for the rate, for adoption of the new rates. I know it's on the agenda, I know you vote on it and take action based on staff recommendations and then board discussion to follow, but I can't recall if it's a public hearing. Does anybody else have any, that was on the board for a while, or can recall if there's an actual public hearing? There typically are public hearings for fee increases.
I
And Georgia,
believe that there is, yeah.
there is, right? There is a public hearing for this. My gut is telling me that there is, but if somebody else could confirm, if not, I
As
could.
far as I can recall, Anthony, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Absolutely.
As far as I can recall, anytime, I know as far as public work goes, and I'm assuming WPCA isn't that far off, anytime there's a rate increase, it does require a public hearing for discussion.
I tend to agree, and I think previously we even have to publicly announce that increase, you know, in the paper.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's,
Yes, you have to
So-
legal notice.
So
Absolutely.
there has to be public input
Right.
on it.
Okay.
Right.
I know there are a couple more items on the agenda. I have to jump off because I have to go on another Zoom at 7 o'clock. So, thank you.
Yeah,
Very
3
well.
minutes, so you can grab something to eat.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
All right.
All right, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Good night, Ed.
bye.
Take care.
John is still on?
No, yeah, John.
Who's next? Item C.
Yes. Collection system, sanitary sewer rehab, various locations. The only report on this is that the WPCA successfully completed cured in place pipelining of the first 3 pipe segments off of Wall Street. So at the intersection of Wall Street, near Troop 429 and Fat Cat, there's a pipe segment. So if you're traveling, I guess it would be eastbound on Wall Street, right when you get to the intersection of Smith Street, we have a sanitary sewer network there. There's 3 segments of 36-inch RCP pipe that many years ago, or several years ago, I should say, the former wastewater treatment plant operator, OMI, with Jacobs Engineering, had evaluated and said that those 3 pipe segments were severely deteriorated, and they had basically a 1 to 3 year lifespan left, useful life. So those 3 pipe segments coming off of Wall Street, traveling down Smith Street towards Head of Harbor, I think it was several hundred feet, and 36-inch RCP pipe were lined successfully several weeks ago. Each liner that went in, each segment of liner, obviously the length of pipe varied, but it took between 24 and 36 hours for the whole process for each liner. So that included the prep time, that included the cleaning of the pipes, because right before they line, they clean the pipe again, they camera inspect it again. That's pushing the liner through, heating it up, curing it, letting it cool, and then cutting out any holes for the laterals, which we didn't really have any on this line, with the exception of Head of Harbor. They had 2 lateral connections. So that was successfully done. No hiccups, no issues. I believe even Dilene was out one night.
I was.
Mhm.
We thank you for that. The bench was a little short and tired. So
Nice.
thank you. Thank you for stepping up and then making sure that there was no sewage overflows, especially in that area.
No problem.
Right.
But that's all we have for the line at this moment.
Mhm. Where we
And then
at?
for the collection system, item number 2, the sanitary sewer evaluation and design, the copy included. We did sign a new task order with Brown and Caldwell. Right now, we have 3 consultants working for WPCA. Arcadis, which typically handles the headworks and the wastewater treatment plant work. Brown and Caldwell, who has been assigned to prepare that sanitary sewer master plan that we described earlier. That's in coordination and conjunction with the consent order issued by the DEP, or the draft consent order, I should say. And then the other consultant is Woodard and Curran, who's helping us out with some of the other tasks, including the financial model. And they're also Woodard and Curran's also going to assist with developing capital projects from that master plan that Brown and Caldwell is preparing. So Brown and Caldwell will prepare the plan, probably complete some of the projects, but to spread the resources and keep both consultants working, Woodard and Curran would assist Brown and Caldwell with whatever improvements are identified from the master plan. So the new task order is signed with Brown and Caldwell, and Brown and Caldwell's main task of the new task order is to evaluate the Bell Island and Sandwich Street pump stations, that whole service area, or that whole sewer shed area, and along with a few other locations which are trouble spots. I believe one of them is underneath the Merit 7 highway. We have the sanitary sewer there that is connected to some older junction chamber, and there's some conditions there that we want to review and evaluate and see if we can improve. Some of the pipe is sagging, some of the pipe might be slightly reverse pitched. Again, this is based on institutional knowledge and some old camera inspections. So part of this new task will be to line any of the sanitary sewers that I've just described above, Bell Island, Samus, and under the Merritt 7, and some other low spots in the line areas, even on Boughton Street as well. Again, these areas haven't been finalized yet. This is what's been presented and discussed initially with the consultant and Ralph Cole. So that's the sanitary sewer evaluation. Again, that task order is specific for that area. We know that there's a suspected amount of infiltration entering Bell Island and Samus Street, just because we know there's some tidal influence from nearby water courses that are obviously tidal influence as well. So we're looking to reduce the I&I, which is our ultimate goal. And these areas have been known hotspots for a while. And then item 3, the collection for the flow metering. So we had, I believe, 40 flow meters installed throughout various manholes within the city of Norwalk. And the purpose of the flow meters were to capture normal daily flow, and then obviously fluctuations in the flow as they relate to I&I. So when it rains, if you have pipes that have leaky joints, if you have illicit connections, meaning connections from a storm sewer into the sanitary sewer, et cetera, you always want to try to capture those larger storms. Sometimes you get lucky and you get several different storms within your monitoring period. So when you drop the flow meters in, it's typically a 6 to 8 week monitoring period. And you try to get a storm at least half inch or more. Obviously, we've had a lot of those since the summer started. So we do have good data, but there was 40 flow meters all over the city. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the data from those meters, and then Brown and Caldwell is going to use that data and import it into their model or their skeleton that they have of our sanitary sewer. And it's going to give us better data about how our sanitary sewer is actually operating, both under blue sky, normal conditions, and under storm events. So we can see the difference, and then that will generate almost like a heat map, and we'll find out where our red spots are and our problem areas. So that's we did receive a lot of good data. And again, that's part of the master plan with a sanitary sewer I&I report that we're doing for Connecticut Deep and for the city. And item 4, site development and sewer capacity analysis support. So this task order was signed, again, B&C's Brown and Caldwell. And the point or the purpose of this task order is to assist WPCA and DPW staff with a scenario where there's a planned future development, either by a developer, or let's just say the planning and zoning department updates any of their plans, maybe the POCD or zoning. And what we can do is we could model various different scenarios of build outs where most of Norwalk's developed. So especially where it's commercialized or more urban, you'd have different uses. Maybe the footprints would still say the same one in the building, but you have different uses. So if a developer comes in, or if the city themselves want to build a new structure or redevelop a particular parcel, we could project the proposed flows and see how they impact or not impact the immediate vicinity and downstream vicinity of the sanitary sewer. So that also gives the city staff the ability to, when they speak to the developer and say, hey, this 12-inch pipe is under capacity, we need you to upgrade to an 18-inch and a 16-inch. Most developers won't push that fact because they know it's part of the overall development and the overall nature of doing business and making a betterment for the city. But this will provide additional supporting documentation to show that, hey, this is the reason for the upgrade. This is how we arrived at our decision. Like it or not, the bigger pipe is required for 300 feet until your immediate impact on the sanitary sewer wears off. So that's a good task order to have. We could do the analysis ourselves, but again, it'd be more time consuming. And our consultant, Brown and Caldwell, has the model so that if the developer comes in, they would put that development, they'd assume a flow, and they could project what impact, if any, it would have on our sanitary sewer. Remember, as part of our sanitary sewer system too, we're always looking to maintain a reserve in the sanitary sewer mains. Every municipality is different. Us, we require 40% reserve capacity. So if our 12-inch pipe is flowing 8 inches full, which is about 2/3, let's just call it 60%. We look to maintain that 8 inches in the 12 pipes. So that means if a new development comes in, whether it's city or private, we run a model, we do an analysis, and if that reserve is impacted, then that requires the upsizing of the pipe. And again, the whole point why you have a reserve is for additional flows from storm events, I&I, and or future development. So it's always good to have that reserve in the sanitary sewer. Some places do 50%. I've seen 2/3, but generally I've seen between 50% and 25% in most municipalities. White Plains, I think 33% or 50%, they were close to. So 40% is a good conservative number, and more than what the standard practice calls for, which is usually about 25% to 33%. And the last item, I believe, under 12 is item number 5, the pump stations for 5 Mile, Old Trolley Way, Karen Drive, and Woodward Avenue rehabilitation. The project is advancing, and currently right now we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. We had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor for all of the different sites. They visited the sites, but we're waiting currently right now on material and equipment purchases. And as I think we've discussed earlier in prior meetings too, we're seeing longer lead time with a lot of materials related to steel, lumber, plastic, valves. You name it. All the materials are back ordered, and if you want them any sooner, you have to pay a premium. So, and there's actually a COVID premium built in to a lot of these projects. I know that the pump station projects and other projects that we've had from WPCA, they've seen about a 20-25% increase due to COVID expenses, fluctuation, again, because the suppliers are charging more to the distributors and to our contractors. So we have seen markups ranging anywhere from 20-25% extra and longer lead times. And item D, information copies, none.
Item
No item
13,
B. No item B.
That's an easy item.
item 13,
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Anthony. Any other business to conduct? Are there any other
That's all
business
I
to conduct in our meeting?
I make a motion to
Entertain a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn the meeting then?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. See you
Thank you
next
very
month.
much, everyone.
An-
See you
Anthony,
next month. Yes.
Anthony,
yes.
before you ring off, what is written on the streets, CYM, MRI stand for?
CYM.
So, all over my neighborhood, on the streets.
Oh, it's it's actually CBUD, cool before you dig, utility mark out in advance for excavation or milling. Is it white paint, white letters?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
whenever you see white paint with CBYD, is cool before you dig, and then you'll see lines usually, and that just marks the limits of the excavation or the work,
Okay, got it. Good.
which means that there's pending future work coming, whether it's drainage or you even have to call before you dig for even if you're milling.
Okay, yeah,
Not
because I see it all over the neighborhood.
That's a good thing.
No. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, everyone.
You're very welcome.
Night.
Take care,
Night.
everybody. Take care, board
Night,
members.
everybody.
Kevin, Eileen, thank you, Chris. Take care.
Take care.
All right.
Stay safe.
Good night, guys.